Welcome everybody, Mr. mredrollo here for another ADSR Sounds live stream. How's everyone going tonight or today, wherever you are in the world? Thanks for joining me for today's live stream. Thanks to ADSR for having me on the show. Let's call it a show, shall we? These live streams are going out every day as at the moment. Times are a little bit tough where we are, and we're just dealing with it the best way we can at the moment. So yeah, thanks to ADSR for having me on. A big shout out before I get started, a happy birthday to Steve Folds, the CEO of ADSR Sounds. It is his birthday today, I believe. Let's show him some love in the chat, so should we? I think ADSR are doing some great things, so yeah. Birthdays. So thanks for joining me. My name is Mr. mredrollo. I'm a DJ and a producer and an Ableton certified trainer based in Hong Kong. So I'm streaming to you live from Hong Kong at the moment from my studio. Today we're going to be covering workflow using the Push2 controller, and we're going to delve into a little bit of Ableton Live stuff as well. If you do have any questions along the way, feel free to fire them in the chat. I've got multiple things running at the moment, so we've got a multi-angle screen going up. I've got the chat from YouTube, got the chat from Facebook, and I'm sure we can probably patch in some chat from Twitch as well if you're streaming from there too. I have just released a brand new video series entitled Produce with Push2, which has been live on the ADSR Sounds website, adsrsounds.com/courses. Which demonstrates the process of creating a track from start to finish, not entirely on the Push2, but just using Ableton Live. It's a pretty good series. I think there's even a discount at the moment if you're keen to check that out. And today I thought that we'd delve a little bit into kind of the style of the series. We won't be able to create an entire track from start to finish, but I'll do my best to create something cool for you guys. I've got a few toys here that we're going to play with and hopefully include in the track. So yeah, if you do like what you see, definitely go check out that course. Super appreciate it. Super cheap right now, and yeah, nice. Let's move on. So we're going to be looking at the Push2 and creating some sort of a basic idea. The Push is a fantastic controller for those who do own one. I'm sure you already are aware of this. For those who don't own a Push, then hopefully this breaks down, the capabilities of what you can do with it. I think the great thing about Push is that it's a multifunctional device that allows you to create some amazing things in the studio, but also bring that to the stage and use it in a live scenario, which is what I do on a regular basis up until recently, where we've been on lockdown. But it's fantastic in the studio, it's fantastic in the stage. And so today we're going to build up something which will give you a nice overview of the functionalities. Push was never designed to completely replace using Ableton Live. It was there to enhance your experience of using Live. So you'll notice throughout this demonstration, I'll be dipping into Live. I'll be using the Push controller as well. So you'll sort of see the pros and cons of using the controller, but overall, it wasn't there to completely replace that experience of using the software. It's just there to enhance it. So nice to just keep that one in mind. I find when I'm producing with the Push, I tend to come up with completely different ideas as opposed to just kind of clicking around live and, writing MIDI in the piano roll. And I tend to come up with more creative ideas and just stuff that I normally wouldn't write. And so I think that's kind of a nice pro to using it. So I really hope you get something out of today. And yeah, we'll take questions a little bit later on, and we'll start building up some music now. Let's kill the chat, and I'll explain what I'm doing along the way. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Let's just do a quick kind of overview of what we're looking at here. You can see my Push is, I guess, custom. Let's go to a top-down view, shall we? Bam. All right. So, just a quick overview of what we're looking at here. This is the nice display. We have a full, LED RGB color display here. where we can get some really nice feedback from devices or clips or whatever we have within our tracks. My encoder's up here, which we can use for browsing and also tweaking of parameters and devices within Live. These are custom, and so we've got all these nice colorful colors here, but generally speaking, when they come on the push, they're black and they're actually touch sensitive, which is a really nice feature. Since changing these over, I've lost that touch sensitivity, which is fine. I'm not sort of crying about it at this stage. Then we have basic browsing over the side here where we can add devices and add tracks. We're going to be using these a lot. We have our transport controls down the bottom here, like play and record and overdub. And then we obviously have the 64 pads in the middle here. At the moment, we're looking at note mode, which is essentially like a piano roll keyboard. And we'll explain a little bit about that a bit later. We can navigate through our different tracks here at the moment. We've got just a few MIDI tracks in here and all these pretty colors. And we have different layouts. We have modes. We've got session view so we can see our clips in Live. We have note mode where we can use either sequences or we can write music. Yeah, cool. I'm gushing about this thing. Let's just get stuck into it. Let's make some music. Excuse me. All right, so we're going to make some upbeat kind of dancey, deep sort of stuff, I guess. So we'll start with our first MIDI track here and go over to add device. And I'm going to dip into my just basic Ableton core library stuff. So things that are accessible to everyone. If you own a copy of Ableton Live Suite or even just Ableton Live Standard, then you should get away with pretty much all of the sounds and devices that I'm using today. For my drums, I'm just going to use an 808, classic 808 kit core, and load that in. You can notice that the pads have now changed, and we've got 16 pads down here with our different 808 samples. Hopefully you guys are receiving that loud and clear. Please let me know if it's not loud enough, and I'll try and pump it up. But yeah, I imagine that's going to be pretty loud for you guys out there. Oh, maybe not actually. Let's bring this back up to 0. Awesome. So let's just get a nice 4 on the floor kick pattern happening here. And I'm just going to input that into the sequencer up the top here. Awesome. Thanks for today, guys. I'll catch it. No, just kidding. Let's keep going. So we've got this kick pattern in here at the moment. This is just basic 4 on the floor. You can see where my kicks are. We'll get a little upbeat going on the hi-hats as well. Yeah, maybe we can add in a few toms as well. I'm just going to delve into this a little bit here and stop talking. Nice. Okay, so just got a basic kind of groove going on here. First thing I'm going to do now is actually shape these sounds a little bit. So now that we've actually inputted these sounds, we have the ability to go in there and actually tweak them a little bit. We don't have to just stay with this default sound. I always find, especially with the 808 kit core, that all the release times of everything is set to the maximum amount, and this is something that I like to tweak straight from the start to tighten everything up, and so that our kicks and just everything is not kind of taking up unwanted frequencies space, or like filling up the frequency spectrum with unwanted frequencies. Like this kick is just so low and so boomy, and if we're like jumping ahead to a mixing stage, this is going to really kind of take away a lot of headroom for us. So let's dive into the simpler device. So every sample that sits within a drum rack sits within a simpler device, which is just it's basically a basic sampler, although we can do some pretty advanced things with this. So we're going to dive into the sub-menu of simpler just by clicking on it again, and that brings up all these other parameters of the simpler device. So I can see my sample here. We've got some global controls here, which we're not going to touch at the moment. This is where we can transpose and adjust the gain. But I'm really interested in the envelopes. So this is the ADSR envelope. Haha, ta-da-ching. And we can take down the release time here. I'll just solo that kick for you. So we can bring it right down to a tiny little click. Full release, it's really boomy. If you're not hearing that, you might need a good pair of headphones. And let's tighten that up. That's sitting around 500 milliseconds or something like that. Nice. I'll unsolo that kick. We could also do that with the toms here. Let's go into the simpler envelopes. It's the low tom. Excellent. And the high tom, let's do the same. Simpler envelopes, release. Even more. Ooh, a little bit more. Lovely. All right, so now that we've shaped some of these sounds, I'm going to go a step further and now adjust some levels as well. These are all just set at the maximum level. So if we go back and we open up our drum rack here, we've now got access to all of our different samples and all the tracks within this group or within this rack. So before we just had the individual MIDI tracks here. Now if I click on the drum rack again, we can now open up all of our separate samples. I'm going to head over to the mix mode, which changed the display to now levels. You can also change panning and sends of different tracks. But what I'm most interested in here is the volumes. So I'm going to bring down that low tom a little bit. Bring down the hi-hat a little bit. Just subtly in the background there. And we can just go across. There's that high tom. We'll bring that down a bit too. Excellent. Let's add a couple more elements. So you want to add an open hat. So we'll get rid of one of these hats. Let's go in there. Beautiful. Definitely going to bring that volume down. And let's also add a shaker in here too. Now I'm going to use a nice function on the push here, which is the repeat function. Now we can split up the subdivisions of our repeat, which is just going to re-trigger the sample over and over again. You can do like 1/8 notes. We're on 16ths at the moment, 30 seconds. You get nice triplet grooves as well. Like that kind of trappy kind of feel. But and also these pads are velocity sensitive, so if I press down harder, I get nice kind of movement and a bit more expression out of it. So I'm just going to record these in live using our little overdub down here. So let's overdub. Nice. Let's also adjust the volume to this one too. Maraca, I think it's this guy. Just giving us a little bit of groove in the background. Nice. All right. Now, to take this groove to the next level is to add a little bit of swing to it. I'm sure a lot of you out there will know about adding grooves and adding swings. We can do that on the push pretty easily. It's not the most complex level of swing, but we just have this generic swing amount, which is the second encoder from the left here. So we can bring up this to a value which is just going to swing those 16th notes. This is a 16th note swing that we're applying. So what that's going to do is every 8th note is going to stay in its place. So this is just like the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and is going to stay locked to the grid. But the 1 E and R, the E and the R are going to shift. So we've got like a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and R. So let's apply some swing. What we have to do is just bring up the swing amount. It's kind of a guessing game in a way. And then we just hit the quantize button on the side here, and that's going to quantize it to our swing amount. And let's quantize it. Oh yeah. So if we were a bit too much, we can just take it back maybe to say 30% and quantize it again. It's pretty good. What we're going to do here is go into my audio effects. I'm going to go add device, head down to my collections of samples that I've saved, audio effects that I've saved. I'm just going to add in a saturator here. Just going to beef up these drums a little bit. Nice. I'm liking that. Cool. So just one more step that I'd like to do before we move on to some melodic elements. Getting this first groove is quite important for me, just so I can sort of start feeling the rest of the music. I mean, for every producer, it's different, whether you want to start with, you know, melodic stuff or whether you want to start with your rhythmical stuff. It's completely up to you. I have no preference. I start with chords, sometimes I start with grooves. For this though, we're starting with the groove, which is always a good starting point. What I'm going to do here is actually just duplicate this loop. So at the moment we've just got a 2-bar loop, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And we can see the loop position here. So this is our clip length selector on the side here. So we've got our drum rack, we've got our sequencer, and this is our clip view. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. So if we want to make this twice as long, we have a nice little handy button on the side here called double loop. So we can just select that guy. And notice on the clip view here, we've got these other 2 little lights now. It's going to play back a 4-bar loop. 1. Now it's playing the other side. And we can switch between the clip view using the page icons down the bottom here. So we're currently looking at the first 2 bars and the second 2 bars. And if we want to isolate, like say the last 2 bars, we just double click on the pads, and that's going to isolate those last 2 bars of the clip. This is all sitting within the same MIDI clip, which is super cool. So now I can just work on the last 2 bars. Maybe we'll do like a 16th. It's kind of nice. Let's maybe add a little hat triplet or something. That's kind of cool. Notice I'm always hitting quantize after I enter these notes so that it slips into our groove again. So you just keep quantizing, keep quantizing, keep quantizing once you've set your swing amount. And these are all going to be at full velocity, right? So when we input these notes, it's going to be at the same velocity throughout. But we can select these guys and head over to our clip view. And here we can adjust the velocities. So I'm actually going to bring these down. And this is quite small, so it might be hard for you viewers at home. But what's happening here is I'm actually just bringing these velocities down a little bit. They were on 100% velocity. Now bring them down to say 60%. You could even go down a little bit more. 50% say. Nice. So we don't just get that da da da, it's all at the same velocity. We've got a little bit of variation. All these little kind of nuances and subtleties are going to help improve your groove over time. So, all right, we're just looking at the last 2 bars here. Let's hold down the first bar and the last bar. Now we can re-loop that 4-bar drum groove. Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments. Blaine, you got a lot to say, man. I love it. We'll dig into that a little bit later. If you do have comments, please drop them in the YouTube chat or on Facebook or on Twitch, wherever you're viewing, and we'll tackle them towards the end of the stream. All right, let's move on to some melodic elements. All right, so track number 2, and we've got our groove nailed. I'm going to go into Add Device, and in my synths categories here, I've just got a few different synth presets. This is actually one that I just an instrument rack that I made myself. It's pretty basic. It's just a sawtooth within wavetable and a couple of effects. I'll show you quickly in live what I'm showing you here. So I've just got a little instrument rack here. I've got a wavetable, saturator, bit of multiband, reverb, a little bit of EQ. Nothing special. And then I've just done a little macro mapping to the filter so that I've got a little bit of a fun dial here. Yeah, I love it. All right, let's go back to push. Okay, so what I'm looking for here, this is the this is the note mode of your melodic keyboard. So what we're seeing here is actually chromatic mode. So if we hit scale on the side here, this brings up a whole other window here where we have all the different keys that we can select. So we've got C, all the 12 different keys basically, and at the moment we're in C, and then we can select the different scale, and you can notice how the pads on the push completely change, and the lit up pads are basically showing you what the scale is. So in the most basic of scale, we have C major, C minor, and C Dorian, which is what I had it in just before. Slightly different. Now you do have an in key mode, which limits the pads to just what's in the key. Now if you're just starting out with a push, this is a really good starting point because you pretty much can't do no wrong. You can't hit a wrong note really. Some stuff is going to sound better than others, but it's a really good place to just experiment if you're just getting started. I like to use the chromatic mode, which means that I have full access to the complete, chromatic keyboard. And if I want to break out of the scale, I can, which is what I tend to do quite a bit. So I was just messing around on an idea before, just some chords, which I think we'll lay in. Let's get out of scale mode and bring this filter down a bit. Right, so I'm going to record this idea in. Now, I have a couple of options here. I can either set a fixed length. So if we were going to record, say, 2 bars or 4 bars or 8 bars, I could select that here. Or I can just hit record and just mess around and hope that something works. We also have the ability to capture our ideas, which was a new update with Live 10, which was a really nice ability to capture MIDI notes that you'd played in the past. So it's a new way to record your ideas. Just noticing something in the live feed. I think we're all good. Okay, cool. All right, so let's record this idea in. Okay, I think I've got it here. I think I might just, let's do a fixed length. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. I think it's just a 4-bar loop I'm doing here. So let's, yeah, wish me luck. And let's quantize that. Nice. All right, let's just jump over to live real quick because I want to show you just what we've just recorded here. Now I quantized these notes, but you can notice that it just stops a little bit before the end of each one of these. So this is something that is handy to do within live. It's possible to do it on the push, but will just take a much longer time. So if we just highlight everything and just hit legato, now that's going to snap everything to the next MIDI note in our clip, which is just super handy. All right, now I'm going to add a little device to this. I'm just going to go add device. What I'm going to do here is actually add an auto pan. Now I'll go into audio effects, auto pan, load that up. Now I'm going to do a little trick here, which is essentially like a sidechain compression trick here, but it's just using a little bit of volume ducking, using an auto pan, which is a little bit different. What I'm going to do here is change the waveform to a sawtooth. And go over to our frequency. Let's sync that to our BPM, and let's go up to, say, quarter notes. And I'm going to bring the phase down to 0. So essentially, rather than having a left and a right, which is going to be modulating the volume from left and right, up and down, we've taken the phase to 0. So now we're essentially just left and right are moving as one, as a single oscillation. And this is going to turn this into a volume automation. So let's have a listen to this as I apply the amount. Now, since I have that sawtooth as our shape and it's going down, what I can do here is actually invert that so that it goes up. So we get that nice pumping effect. And we can change the shape a little bit here too. Beautiful. Gives it a bit of movement, gives us space for our kick drum as well. All right, let's move on to our next MIDI track. Let's add in some bass. I think we could do with some bass in this. Go into add device. Let's head down to, I'm just going to go instruments. I think we'll use an operator for this. Operator is an FM synthesizer within Live, and fantastic for bass. We'll just grab a preset here. Yeah. Bass sign like, super subby. You may not be able to hear that unless you've got some really good headphones on. Maybe we'll just distort it a little bit. So I'll jump into my audio effects. Let's grab saturator. Yeah, grab a saturator on this, and maybe we'll turn it up. Say hard curve. Yeah, nice. Might even be too much. Excellent, I'm liking this. So I didn't have fixed length enabled before, so I've actually got to press it down so it's flashing. That always gets me. All right, so let's record this one in live. 2, 3, and... Nice, gonna quantize that. And again, I'm going to jump over to live and going to legato these notes. We've got a little bit of overlap here. So let's just Command A. So we select everything and select legato over on the left-hand side here, down here, and clip editor window. So now we've got everything snapped, which is lovely. All right, and we're going to do that same ducking technique with a auto pan. So let's go into audio effects, go down to auto pan. Let's add that in. Let's go through this quickly, shall we? So change this over to a saw wave, change the sync rate to beats, turn that down to quarter notes, bring the phase down to 0. Let's invert that curve and bring the amount up. Nice, getting that pumping effect. All right. Let's do something a bit different here. I've got a couple more melodic elements I want to add in, but I'd like to add in just a little vocal bite of some sort. Now I've got some packs here that from ADSR sounds, and I was delving into this deep house pack. It's called Just Deep. Actually, no, there's another one. Percussionism, I think it's called. Percussionism, Deep House. And they've got some nice vocal bites in there. So what I'm going to do is add in a drum rack. So let's add a drum rack in. Now I've just got an empty drum rack here, and I've got a single sample slot which I've selected. And I go up to Browse, and if I go into my sample library here, I've got an ADSR sounds folder, and I think it was this pack, Percussionisms, Percussionism, vocal chops. Who let the dogs out? This one's kind of nice. Let's load this one. Go back to my device view. Let's trim this down a little bit. So I'm looking at the simpler here. We've got some in and out points. Let's go back to push, shall we? Sorry, we're looking at live. Yeah, that's all I'm looking for. Let's delve into the simpler a little bit further. Let's go into let's change the mode actually. We're going to change it over to classic mode, which enables the ADSR envelope, or the amp envelope. It's kind kind of cool. Let's maybe go to our panning settings. We can put some spread on it. Gives a bit more stereo width. Now, global settings. This is where we can transpose it. I dare say we're going to have to transpose it to the right key, so let's have a listen. Alright, I think that's pretty close. If we're unsure about this, we can actually add a tuner device. So let's add device. Let's go down to audio effects, way down the bottom, QRST tuner. Let's add you in. And you won't be able to see this, so let's go up to, let's look at live. Looks like we're sort of a flat G there, so go into the simpler. Just tuning it up to a G, and I think we're in C, so that's perfect fifth, so we should be fine. Let's give that a go, shall we? Let's just do 2 bars. Right, sounding a little bit sick. Let's add in some reverb. So go to add device, down to audio effects, wash it out with some reverb. Just want to add a little bit of, it's going to add like a rhythmical kind of tone in the background. Don't want it to be too present though. Let's get out reverb. Fine tune it a little bit more in our envelopes. Beautiful. All right. Nice to have a little bit of vocal in there. It always helps. Kind of helps people like connect with your music, I guess. I always make music that doesn't have vocals in it, so I try to force myself to put vocals in it. Sometimes I even just sample myself going like, or something like that, just to add that human touch. All right, I really want to add like an ARP in here, and I think we'll do like a little bit of sound design. So I've just selected my new MIDI track here. Let's go to add device, gonna head down to instruments. Let's use the new, well, it's not so new anymore, but we're gonna use wavetable, which is the latest synthesizer from Ableton. It's a beautiful, beautiful synth, wavetable synth, obviously. And we'll just do some very, very basic sound design here. So I'm just using the, let's go back to push, shall we? So let's just bring the position of this wave up. So this is the beautiful thing about wavetable. You can just sweep through your oscillators. Just want a basic sawtooth. Bring the filter down. Nice. And if we dive into the wavetable, into the submenus, we just select the device again. We get all the different parameters here. Now, this is one of the limitations I was talking about earlier of having these custom encoders, as we have a nice feature here where we can add any parameter to our matrix. What the matrix is a place for us to assign different parameters within wavetable to envelopes and LFOs and things, and start get some really expression happening with this synth. And I'm unable to do it on the push just because my custom fancy dials here are not actually touch sensitive. So what I'm going to have to do is actually go into wavetable for this. So I'm going to open it up, and so we can see this in live and what I'm doing here. And I'm just selecting the filter down the bottom here, and now we can see it's popped up in our matrix just by selecting it, and it's then saying, what do you want to send to the filter to? So I actually want to send this to the second envelope here. And now that we've assigned that, it should pop up in the push now. If we go to the matrix, we now have, let's go back to the push, filter, here we are, and envelope too. All right, so we should get a bit of like filter envelope action happening now. Let's go into our envelopes here, and we're going to go to envelope 2, give this a bit of a shape. Let's bring the sustain down, decay in. So this is just a, you know, it's an envelope, so it's just telling the filter what to do to start open and then close. And if we go back to our matrix, we can adjust the amount. Just looking for a nice plucky sound. It's good enough for now. I'm going to go too crazy with this sound design. Maybe we could add another oscillator, shall we? Let's go oscillator 2. Maybe we can delve into some other waves, other wavetables. That's nice. Cool, that'll do for now. We can tweak it a little bit more, but what I really want to do here is actually add an arpeggiator. And what I'm going to do is add one of my favorite devices in Live, which is actually a Max for Live device, which is just called ARP. And this is a beautiful device which arpeggiators just split up the sound, split up the notes, and we can choose the subdivisions. At the moment we're on 16ths. What I love about this is that we can take away notes as well. So it's not just a constant digga 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 digga. We can actually fine tune this. And we also have a swing amount. Now this is awesome. Beautiful. So I'm going to take away a few notes. If we go back to Live here, these are our 16 notes that we have here in our subdivisions, and we'll just do like a little 1, 2, skip a few kind of thing. Maybe something like that. See if that works. Beautiful. Awesome. Now I'm also kind of lazy here. I could record in some more notes here. What I'm actually going to do is go back to session view here. So we're in note mode at the moment. Now I'm going to click over in session view. I can see the clips that we've created. So these are drums here. These are the chords that we made. Here's the bass line. This is the little vocal stab. So what I'm going to do is actually duplicate my chords over. So let's hold down duplicate and hit this guy and paste it over here. So now these chords are actually inside the wavetable track here, and I'm actually going to send these to the arpeggiator. So let's just solo the wavetable and see what that sounds like. This is screaming for some effects, so let's go into our browser here. Let's add device. Let's go down to our audio effects. I'm going to grab the delay. Let's add some of this in. Okay, it's way too much. Let's bring the feedback down, bring the dry wet down. Maybe we can actually unsync these as well. So actually, let's go back here. So on the left side, we're in subdivisions of 2/16ths, and on the right side, we're on 4/16ths. So let's just spread things out for us. Now it'd be criminal not to put some reverb on this, so let's go add device, audio effects, all the way down. Let's add some reverb. The question is, how does it sound in the mix? I'm just going to add a bit of saturator into this as well, just to give those arps a bit of a boost, because we're already maxed out there, and I could bring everything else down, but I'm kind of lazy, so let's just add in a saturator. Boom. Yeah, that's done it. And let's also do that ducking technique as well on this. I feel like we're going to be needing a little bit of variation in this, so it's not just solid notes all the time. So we're going to we'll add this ducking in before the reverb. So I've selected the reverb here. I'll just go back to the delay. The delay can go through the ducking, but then the reverb I think we'll leave clean. So let's add the device here. Let's go down to audio effects, all the way down. Oh no, we're getting an auto pan. And let's load that in. Same trick, we've done this before. Bring the phase down, frequency onto beats, put this up to quarter notes, turn this into a saw wave, invert the curve, bring the amount up. Let's change the shape as well. This gives us a bit of movement. Nice. How are we doing for time? Wow, we're running out of time. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to keep this kind of short, I guess, and look at answering a few questions as well. I just want to show you one more thing, and then we'll delve into some questions, yeah? So if we're going to take this a step further and actually kind of use this and maybe want to jam out something, we might want to utilize another controller here. So I was just seeing in the comments someone asked about this. This is the Novation Launch Control XL, which is a fantastic accompaniment for push. So push is a really fantastic like brain where everything can feed through it, and then it's nice to have like the other limbs of the body to assist what this is doing. You know, you can use push alone, but I highly recommend having something else to accompany it just so that you can work a little bit more freely. And something I really like to do is by selecting the master track here, we can add in some performance effects. So if we go down to audio effects, we'll go into our audio effect rack here, and I'm going to grab some effect. The one that I would like to use the most is this one knob fade to gray, which is just yeah, it's just works every time. So if we go out of the master here, and I'm going to switch over to live here because I'm going to do a little bit of MIDI mapping, which we can't really do on the push. So if we go to our master track, we've got the fade to gray. This is just a single dial, which is like a combination of a filter and an echo or a delay, I think. If we open this up, what have we got in here? Yeah, we've got delay and an EQ. And what we'll do here is just go up to our MIDI mapping icon at the top here. Everything's going to turn blue. I'm going to select the little fade dial here, and then I'm just going to turn one of these encoders on the Launch Control XL. We've now got a mapping up here, which is giving us the amounts as well. And what I'm going to do is also map the on-off button to the same dial. And up here in our MIDI mapping settings, I'm going to set the minimum to 1. The maximum is still set to 127. What that means is that when the dial goes all the way down to 0, it switches off. And this is really, really nice because I find that if you just leave it on, it actually affects what's going on in your master chain. And we don't want that. We want to have a nice, clean master feed. So now when we turn this dial, when it goes down to 0, the device turns off. So if we press play here, Excellent. All right. So yeah, just some basic little MIDI mapping there to sort of kind of complete the whole experience. And yeah, I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun with that. Awesome. So I think I should probably wrap it up and look at answering a few questions. I'll do this the best I can here. I've just got some YouTube comments over here. Just give me a second, guys. Just bear with me as we go through these. Change the view back here. All right. Wow, there's a lot. Okay. What's up? Hey, everybody. Great, thank you. What's your favorite weird synth or VST? I guess my favorite synth is my Moog Mother 32. I have that over here on the side here. Lots of happy birthday love for Steve. Great to see that. Is there any way to take sampled voice and harmonize the vocal note or phrase? Yeah, absolutely. So if you sample your voice, like I did before, actually we haven't sampled anything in this video. Maybe we'll do it in the next one. If you do sample some audio through, I did want to do that today. I had my guitar over here. We can sample that, and using just a simpler device, we can use our keyboard here to actually play out those notes and harmonize those vocals. So absolutely, yeah. As long as you've got a line in and a microphone, you should be fine. Love the encoder. Thanks, man. Hey, 343 Labs. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Nice to see you. Awesome. Dark and ambient. Yeah, nice, man. I don't like Ableton. Oh, well, it's not for everyone, man. Ableton's the company, by the way. So do you not like the company, or do you not like the software and the hardware? Tough decisions to make. Launchpad. No, this is the Ableton Push. Transpose. Can you demonstrate some live looping? Sure thing. If we've got some time, let's do it. Let's do some live looping. Why not? I think because I really wanted to do that in the stream. So what I'm going to do here is add an audio track. Let's just add a default audio track. Let's go back to Push, shall we? And all right, so audio track is here. I'm going to go over to session view. And what I'm going to do here is actually arm this track. So now you can see I've got all these red lights here, which is like ready for me to record. And if we go over to our mix mode here, I'm going to select this button again. And now we get the individual parameters for this track. We have our mixing parameters here. So we've got our volume, track panning and such. We have our in and outs here. So what I'm going to do is go to auto. That's picking up my microphone. You might be hearing me in stereo now. Let's change the input though to channel 2, which I have my bass. Actually, no, it's my guitar is plugged into that. And let's record in a little bit of guitar. Actually, what I'm going to do is add a device on here. I've got a nice little guitar effect preset that I made. Where is it? Here we go, guitar rack. All right, let's not get carried away. All right, okay, so I'm just going to trigger this same idea again. And then I've got fixed length enabled. Let's do, say, just a 2-bar loop. And yeah, let's just record an idea in. Yeah, something like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. So that's recorded in, and a nice thing as well, if you are recording stuff in live, just to make this sound even bigger, nice little technique I like to do here is just duplicate this. So hold down duplicate the entire track, and I'm just going to delete this clip and record it again, and you'll see why. Let's take you off. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Now we can go into our mix here and pan these left and right. So we've got pans here for this side, pan this to the right, pan this one to the left. Let's unarm that and now have a listen. Yeah, it's just a bang, instant stereo. It's awesome. Awesome, dudes. I hope that was a good enough live looping display. It was quite quick. Exchange your devices. Anyway, you could show your Ableton Love View. I think you mean Live View. I think we've done that a few times. Does Push have audio inputs? No, it doesn't. Good question. Push doesn't have audio inputs. You will need a audio interface of some sort to do line in. You do have two little inputs at the bottom, at the back here, but these are for foot switches and sustain pedal. So no audio inputs on the Push. Someone answered that question in the comments anyway. Good on you. That's correct. Yes. Let's keep going down. Where are we? Where are we? Yeah, you've got a class to attend to. You got to go to school. Good on you, man. It's good that your school is still running in these times. Thanks. Getting a lot of love. Nice to see some of my mates on the chat here too. Don't stop in 10 minutes. This is gold. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it, man. I'm going to jump over to Facebook comments here and just see what's going on here as well. This is excellent. Live lecture production. I'd like to know what software they're using to switch between camera angles and picture-in-picture. We're not totally related to what we're doing here, but man, if you want to reach out to me personally, or if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, at Mr. Mredrollo, so Mr. EDROLLO, you can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, you know, all the usual places. Do you have a recording of your live stream? Did it not start at the beginning when I was watching? Yes, these will be available on the ADSR YouTube channel, so you know you can definitely go and rewatch this afterwards. I hope that's answered everyone's questions. Just doing one final walkthrough. Excellent. Okay, I think we've done it. It's been a fun hour with you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to ADSR Sounds for having me, and hopefully we can all do this again sometime. In the meantime, if you did want to go check out my course where I go into a lot more detail, a lot more depth on producing a track from start to finish using Ableton Live and Ableton Push, then definitely go to adsrsounds.com/courses and you can find my course there. I think they're having a pretty decent sale on at the moment, so highly recommend that. Thanks again, guys. Till next time, take it easy, stay safe, and keep making music. And we'll catch you next time. Cheers.